One of the best districts is Schrödinger Street, the nexus of wealth of this world. We either had shiny glass-sided buildings side by side, or massive stone structures. In the lobby there was a giant chandelier dangling from the ceiling. After going through a waiting room decorated with paintings of old, I arrived in a room filled with an aroma of reeking of bad taste. The scent of paper and ink, most likely. The books packed up lined upon the walls and the rigid bindings would pass for old even on Earth. Marky usually liked this kind of ambience, yet he was casting his eyes downward in displeasure. Well, it's not like I didn't understand why. Oh my Hal, it's been such a long time. This must be right for you, like right before you gobbled up by a crocodile or T-Rex. That looks truly, truly terrifying, actually. Given her height and weight, a hug from Stacia was also known as a death bear hug. As usual, I'm learning quite a lot thanks to your name. Wow, that's a thank you. Yes, yes, oh Marco, you do look adorable, as usual. Hello. Hello. Marco's face looked like it might be squished between two basketballs. As I observed the scene, I fixed my clothes. Marco was struggling to a point where it looked like he couldn't breathe, but Stacia kept him in her embrace for a full 30 seconds before finally setting him free. So, what magnificent case do you have for me today? Something like Avalon again? Oh, we're playing Europa Universal Atlas. So either in your gaming habits are going to be on display. Did I bring you something like that, even for once like that? I said this with a wry smile, and Stacia winked at me. Oh, since you let me handle the lawsuits related to Avalon, my agency is raking over a profit after all. Such a situation is so rare I can confidently say that I made the most money out of the whole mess, second to only Dr. Wallace. Risa really drilled into me, being wary of a woman with an intimidating laugh. Stacia could use purple eyeshadow without any shame. The scary part was that I actually figured it suited her. Also, just because I'm a legal advisor for your fund, a lot of big companies came to me. In the end, as trade is also governed by popularity and trust. Well, it looks like Mr. Gazanika's run is about to come to an end. I can't see him winning a second term. Straight to the point as ever. There's an additional fee for tact. Stacia sat at her through your desk and took a long golden pipe in her hand, hoping that her ashtray were a pleasant ding. So, you must be aware of my hourly wages. What do you need? I told your secretary that it was going to be a trifle. Oh, come on, don't take it seriously. I wanted to decipher a set specifications of a structured bond, Marco. Ah, right. He opened a document on his tablet and handed it to Stacia. And since you're quite knowledgeable about troubles relating to these products, we'd also like some advice. She tweaks the screen skillfully, keeping her eyes locked on the tablet, while her free hand pointed into a corner of the room. Seems like she meant for us to sit down. So, Hal, even you finally end up needing help. Is what Stacia said as she raised her face from her tablet after reading a document for a while. What do you mean? Have you ever heard of that old worth saying? When a widow and a shoe polisher start talking about stock, it's time to sell. These are words of a finance baron of the last century who controlled the flow of a world war with his capital. Oh, did that hit a nerve? Hal, I do think you're a first-rate investor, but anything outside stocks, you're an amateur, aren't you? I'm not angry. At Rose Stacia smiled as she was having fun while putting tobacco in a long pipe. She then used a lighter from her desk that contained an artificial flower blooming in water. And you also want to know what troubles you can get into with these products, right? Yep. I must have crashed. A while back, a canned goods vendor in Malaysia came to our office. Huh? Since he was handling products intended for the lunar surface, it seems he was following recommendations from Harold Brothers' main office to a letter and hedging currency risks and mules and ringgits. Well, it's not that weird. Besides, when told the usual line about how your rival's already doing this, you can't exactly say no. Stacia dumped her ashes out and she said this. But exactly 6 months after our contract, that canned goods vendor opened his eyes at a deep-sea fish who suddenly jumped out of the water and came to our office screaming that he'd been deceived by those greedy bastards on the lunar surface. A canned goods vendor from Malaysia? Can only imagine the micro-businesses in tropical countries like Earth movies depicted him. Seems to be a combination of currency options, interest rate swaps, derivative loans, loaded with enough fuel to fly all the way to Jupiter. It incurred debt worth 20 times the yearly sales. He came blind with rage into her office. She wrapped her long-sided arms around herself, shrugging her shoulders. It's a violent metaphor, but business have a development of teams of banks creating such products, manufactured financial weapons of mass destruction, with no relation to how real business works. She pointed her chin to her tablet, which was back in Marco's hands, and gracefully puffed out a bit of smoke. I won't say we security as ABS of that kind of product, nor will I say there's no magic trick to it. They sell these protection as a set, right? So you know about it? My, you know, we give legal counsel to creators of product like these. You're going to play dumb, you're just wasting my time. Dr. Wallace was focusing on it, so I was wondering whether or not it would be wise not to dabble in these things. Just squinted faintly. In this field, Wallace's very name tends to summon trouble, and lawyers like Stacia make money out of people's troubles. I'd already heard gossip, but he was focusing on it. Since he didn't come to you to Paradise, it seems like he's not out to find dirty laundry. Wallace, the king of pessimism, has two powerful techniques. The first one was to reveal indisputable illegalities such as fraudulent accounting. The second one was to forecast a failure of a business. While no illegalities, nothing good would forcefully entice you into a labyrinth of mathematics. It's not one of those things that could create something from nothing. ABS is backed by some actual assets after all. It's not just a magic trick like inverse floater bond where you just swap out the top and bottom and somehow the bet works out. You could say it's a rare occurrence in this field, but it's a sound product. Deception is nowhere in the product itself. In those words, I cracked a strange smile. That's a competent lawyer for you. The product itself? Shit, me and my big mouth. She yelled, blowing smoke from her nose. I must really fix that bad habit of mine by saying too much before ending my sentences. There's something wrong with ABS? She looked at me, scrutinising me as if she'd just woken up and couldn't focus. I realising though it was with her, she was hesitating. I can't say anything beyond that, it would intrude on my trade. Does that mean you're actively investing in it? Yes, it's the same for us. If we keep on processing every case it comes with a grasp like machines, we end up in deep trouble. That's why most Earth of history is made of, you know. What's good now might become evil if it happens. One has to quickly detect when something was going to turn rotten. Imagine if we took a lawsuit where you would have to defend Avalon, just before fraud got exposed. If we had no ill intent, how would decide to look on such a law firm? Even for attorneys, the leader of an organisation is a manager and an investor. As I nodded, Stacia looked behind her golden pipe and heaved another sigh. This is me investing in you, Hal. You could consider this a case of repayment for your debt regarding Avalon. Take this advice from experience, woman. Treat assets such as favours and debts with utmost care. I shall heed that advice. Then again, if you read these specifications, you would find out. She smiled impishly, but I could tell she was being mean on purpose. But finding a jewel in the middle of these 10,000 pages, that's what your skill is about, am I right? I knew it. You really are good, Hal. You want to work with me? That depends on whether Risa's willing to let me go. No enough was enough to make Stacia falter. The housing project would also have to deal with eviction issues, so all the legal proceedings were handling here. If so, Risa and Stacia met each other, but even though they were both strong women of the same calibre, the vectors of their strengths were polar opposites. I just shut my mouth. So ABS, it's good for a bank producing it. It's good for a customer. It's good for everyone. Now it's called alchemy for one more reason. One more reason? It's being issued by commercial banks and investment banks. That's a key point. As I frowned, Stacia seemed somewhat happy. You're a natural-born trader, right, Hal? You don't do leverage, so you probably wouldn't notice. It's a credit limit. Oh. I doubt I need to tell you this, Hal, but when gathering savings from individuals, a commercial bank is subjected to BIS regulations, right? Their own capital must amount to 8% of the amount they're lending. In other words, I can only bet with a leverage of 120, 100, 1200, and only for bets of low risks. Investment funds gather money from greedy old geezers, so they're not subject to this. But banks are looking after the savings of good old Tom the potato farmer, so it'd be a problem if they went bankrupt. She doesn't like to bring that she was born on Earth. Dropping tobacco ashes, she blows up smoke once again. Banks let you take loans on houses, cars, and lots of things, right? Such loans are like turtles, and only move slowly. especially on the lunar surface where they look like they're not moving at all. By the time I've done repaying a 3-year car loan, I would have turned into an old woman, despite being eternally young. Marco, I'll be giving you a lecture after this. Ah! So you have these banks who want to make big profits, even with such restrictions. Once they've taken my handling fees or a loan, they don't want to deal forever billing interest. They want to switch to the next thing. If you're limited to the amount of money you can lend, slow loans become a burden after all. It's where transformation of loans and securities come into play. Well, products like ABS are brand new taking on existing concepts. From a global angle, it looks like a box full of misshaped apples. But have the magic of mathematics, and it turns into a few rotten apples. With a whole lot of bright, shiny ones. But just look at the figures of a balance sheet, and you can see the quantity is a bigger problem than the quality. We use this method of turning misshaped loans into shiny securities, but oh, how mysterious the risky assets have gone from balance sheet. That doesn't mean we can take new loans, huh? She glanced aside, and smoke escaped from her smile but twisted her lips. In theory, a bank had gathered 100 million more from individuals. You could lend 100 million more to a company. If they lent everything, banks couldn't pay the salaries their employees needed to open shop. They couldn't answer the demand of people wanting to draw money they entrusted the bank with. That's how banks were subjected to BIS regulations. And why we had 8 million of these malls, or 8%. But then the remaining 92 million malls got reimbursed with interest and profited from it. Banking trade worked that way. The process was extremely slow. That must be quite irritating. Then, instead of standing still, waiting for a 92 of a mall to come back, it's far better to sell the loan to someone who would be your stand-in debt collector for over several decades. However, no one would buy the loans as it was, so there's a need to make it look good. So ABS was a policy that allowed the acceleration and rotation of capital. And of course, they take handling fees at return, right? Of course, and not only that, since they also sell protection with it, revenues from insurance instalments are nothing to be scoffed at. The sales amount to billions of malls, well, you can figure out how incredible the profits are. You include loans and composition fees, I figure they may be taken as far as 10%. As a whole, and to top it off, a bank only takes a risk of a short time and has the loan in his hands, which is only an instant. After all, once the loan is sold to an investor, the long-term risk is a loan's repayment of forced reinvestment. And they have to take the fee for no risks. Good business. What that means, I sorted out my head with a flow of capital. Who wanted what and for what reasons were proceeding. The conclusion I came to still something was off. It was something that I was used to seeing. But then, the difference in interest rates between the securities and the protection, the part touted as the Holy Grail, is a collateral providing funds to a bank. In other words, the interest rate for savings. Yes, normal people don't see entrusting their money to a bank as a risk. They only think their capital should be guaranteed, and they should get interest. And then, compared to the stocks of a world of seed investment, I can understand why a gap of interest rates is between ABS and the protection of it must eerily seem like it's devoid of risks. Stock investment was full of risks. In order to reduce those risks, an investor had to check the financial statements, call up the administration, and ask about their corporate performance and their protections for the future. Sometimes directly go to that company. Simply put, to be wary of everything, when it bordered on paranoia. Yet those methods could only alleviate so much risk. After investing, and the whole while until results showed themselves, investors had to hope that the administration would remain sound, where there would be no discord or prey while fearing the worst. And with stocks not only to become harder to move when working on large scale, but the stocks are already relatively high, one could expect more and more reductions of returns. Whereas with ABS, you were fine if you just raised your stakes. You wanted 20% returns? Alright, just go borrow 10 times your current capital. The difference was overwhelming. An incredible gap impossible to close between me clinging to my old school investment methods, like risk, an investment method that managed, using cutting edge mathematics, to bring down investment risk to the level of savings. Confronted with the depths of that gap, I was about to freeze from fear, open my mouth as if to only encourage myself from going on. But Wallace is into it, right? Well, yes. She blew a ring of smoke. That means he hasn't found a flaw in the maths, right? I hear this venerable old man still revives his profits and loss statements by hand. You know, I wouldn't have even knows calculus. Then, do I plan to introduce legal regulations against accounting magic? There's no sign of doing that on Earth, so it's basically not going to happen on the lunar surface. So, what part was you? At this question, Seishu answered instantly. How much can you pay? Marco gulped silently. But that kind of argument wasn't enough to make me balk. Using countenance, I answered. 500 grand. An extension of your exclusivity contract. Hey, how? Huh, that's spectacular of you. If there's one thing I could boast to have mastered in a secret investment, it was not how much more information I had and people around me. It was not even how much closer to the truth I was. It all boiled down to what I knew and they didn't. I accept this display of determination. Actually, we haven't investigated enough to make money off it. However, what we know is the experience in our line's work is that such too good to be true deals will be abused. There really are such things as perfect schemes to get rich. But where it will all turn around will have been to a lie that it won't last long. Profits will eventually dry up, but distortions will start to appear obviously. A self-secured is like going no tomorrow without explaining everything correctly to customers. Then, on the likely chance that accidents happen, you get a mountain of lawsuits. Another thing is that where accidents have a chance of occurring, they will eventually occur. I don't even have a chance to know what kind of accident it will be. If everything could be foreseen within foreseen parameters, then no one would need a lawyer. She's one of these types who knew exactly what she was doing. Few people were actually capable of explaining what their line of business was made of. You can nearly replace Stacia's phrasing with Wallace's. It was still hold true. But then, does that mean that Wallace was also proceeding down the right path? So, Hal, will you give it a try? Stacia grinned at me like a Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland. This might be the hand of a devil tempting me into a labyrinth of greed. I'm a stocks investor. You're probably the only one on the lunar surface who can actually make it on stocks alone this day age. A trite phrase to push customers into sinning. But if you started running blindly because you got poked in the ass, you ran a risk of running headfirst into a chasm. So, do you think Dr. Wallace is right? Who knows? If ABS works out fine, I get work from writing composition specifications. If he collapses, I'll get a lot of work from handling the lawsuits. I don't care which way it goes. All I know is the more excited people who get, the bigger share of profits so we will be able to enjoy. That intimidating smile was just like the ones from mafia bosses in comic books. Lawyers truly are evil. They were lawyers, and exploited problems to make money. It did not concern them which direction the storm of problems took. I decided against trying to get more information out of her. But this time, the amount of money involved might go over Avalon. Huh? She let out a laugh. This ABS thing, they're selling 2, maybe 3 billion more out of it into a month, right? It should make its way into a lot of markets. It might turn a mountain of chips like no one has ever seen. Wouldn't be bad to bet on it. If you were to bet against it, you could output them. You'd make a hefty buck on it. She blew some smoke, smiling complacently. Besides, I had a look at the article about your housing project. You need money, right? Its prospects aren't good. Well, on the lunar surface, people involved in that kind of thing are quite crazy. I do have a liking for that. However, I can still tell what design Stacia had in mind when bringing up the project. You were shining so bright when you came to talk to me about Avalon. She was trying to spur me. She was planning on having other cultivator fields in order to sow the seeds of her business. We got involved in ABS, whether it worked out or not. I could come to her office for legal advice. That's probably what she was thinking. I wouldn't condemn her spirit as a businesswoman, but I thought letting her say all this without talking back wouldn't help me in the future. And when my next big story follows Avalon's defeat comes out, maybe we'll be part of a cast. Well, I'll have to make sure I look my best then. I stood up. After thanking Stacia, I left her office. Marco didn't strike up conversation with me. I couldn't tell whether or not he was shocked or whether or not he was looking for words to spur me on. Once on the street, I glanced at Marco's reflection in the window, with a black luxury car stationed just there. No one would mind what I do in my private time, right? What's got a wind or something? The Stacia was trying to spur us on. It felt more dangerous to ignore this enormous storm any longer. Besides, I wanted to check this out with my own eyes. Was it really behind the times? Marco shrugged with mild disappointment.